No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, there you have it. You're not missing. So we have an exciting list of questions for her today, and I have been fielding them all week since I posted that I was going to be talking to Amy today. So thank you, Amy, for whoops, hold on, here we go. There we go. Got to quiet over with all the other platforms down. So Amy, I notified people that this was going to be happening, and so I'm just getting one message after the other, an email and phone call, ask. So we're going to get right into this. We've got it. These 30 minutes goes by real fast. So first of all, I want to talk about you. Let's talk about why, how you got into recruiting, and let's talk about why high tech.
Oh my gosh, total accident. I mean, does anybody do this on purpose? Yeah, I mean, I had my dream job working in an office with a computer. Like, I thought that was the height of, back in the 90s. Like, I had arrived and was on the phone with, was doing advertising, was on the phone with the employment guide. Anybody remember that? And my sales rep said, "You'd be a really good recruiter." And I said, "Great, what do they do?" Next thing you know, I finagled my way into a job I was in no way qualified for. So started back in, 98, 99, something like that. And just did a bunch of agency gigs over the years and ended up going in-house after the 2009 recession. I did a little detour in government and learned how to work with the unemployed. Definitely a lesson in empathy. And then moved to corporate from there. And tech, I mean, I live in Cloud City, it's Seattle. You can't swing a loaf of bread without hitting a software engineer. So, I didn't choose the tech life. The tech life chose me, as they say.
Yeah, you're kind of in the epicenter of it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Or, Silicon Valley might argue that point with me, but
maybe.
We get the
point. Our houses are more affordable, so there's that.
For now. I don't know about that. All right, so let's get into some of the tough questions. The first question has, and this one actually, how I prioritize these questions in advance is that anything that gets 3 or more votes or similar questions, that's how I'm prioritizing. So the first one is, I am a UX designer. I'm going to give you the toughest one, but we've got 2 junior UX designers. One has a military background, so they have no industry background in user experience, but he has got 9 years in the United States Air Force. He's got an undergrad degree in HCI from Ohio State University. We have another person who is an international background. She is in the United States. She has already worked here. She recently got laid off. She's only got about 2 years of experience in the UX domain. And both of these people are saying the same thing, that it is now an employer's market. People are going to go for the more senior people, and we are just going to be, doing DoorDash until the economy picks up again and they have to use us. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're in this really weird, unprecedented time with this pandemic and with, the employer's market. I don't know how long it's going to last, though, to be honest with you. And I will say, this may not be as helpful, but I just need to plant this seed here. This is not going to last forever. This is going to shift, and employers that are misbehaving today are going to be really sorry in about 6 months. So that's one thing. Second thing, so for the Air Force gentlemen, first of all, thank you for your service. My son is about to enlist in the Air Force, so proud of him. And then going to your, the concerns around not having like actual tangible experience as a UX designer. I mean, that's a fair point, right? Because your experience is basically academic, right? At this point, if you've not actually done the job. However, the thing I would encourage you to do is look at companies that have a robust military veteran hiring group. I mean, there are, especially for larger companies, there are entire teams of recruiters that are dedicated to helping transitioning or veterans or folks, recently coming out of the service. So tap those networks. And also, as far as your UX specific experience, maybe this is a situation where it's like a new grad kind of hire where you're being hired on potential. That's okay. Now, that may come with a slightly different compensation expectation. The thing is, you were in the military for so long and you achieved a certain level, right? You got a certain comp, you got a certain amount of seniority. You're now entering a completely different market. So you're probably going to start a little bit lower than you might like based on the Air Force experience, but you have to think about what's actually transferable to the new gig. But as a veteran, what I would tell my children who are going to be veterans someday is really tap into that alumni network of fellow veterans and companies that hire transitioning service members.
Okay.
They work really hard for you. Going back to our other more junior, couple years of experience gal, the good news is you do have some experience. You do have a portfolio, hopefully. You've got a few things on the resume that you can show off. Here's what I recommend. There are still going to be those lower level roles that we need to hire for. Even though senior people might go for it today, we know that the market's going to shift. They will go right back to or look for more money or whatever. So I would say don't give up. But I also, and I say this to any job seeker, this is probably advice anyone could benefit from. Think about who's feeling the pain of an open role. It's the hiring manager. It's the people that are working on the team, the peers that you might work with. It's a lot of times, it's the recruiter who's tasked with finding the person. So network with all three of those people. Don't feel like, I just have to apply, and then wait. No, apply. I'm a huge fan of online applications. But think about the people in your industry that you could work with or you could work for. Tap them for advice, for help, for potential referrals. They're the experts in your field. You've got to make those connections.
So this is a really good point. So you're saying connect with the recruiter, but then look laterally and look
absolutely.
So look all the way around in that organization for the right people.
It's 360, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's really, there's a three-pronged approach. And that it's not intended to minimize the role of recruiters at all. I believe we perform a valuable function, but I also understand who's feeling the pain. First and foremost, it's the leader who needs to hire you.
How wonderfully refreshing, Amy. Thank you for that. So
no problem.
Another refreshing topic, the ATSs, right? The And if anybody is on this call, and I just want to stop for a second, Ann Lopez, thank you so much for interjecting. There is an Amazon Military Affairs virtual webinar happening now. That doesn't mean you
nice. Don't leave us, though.
And Amy is awesome. Matthew LePompe, I hope I pronounced it correctly.
He's a good dude.
You know
him? Yep.
All right, now everybody, let's just have her talk for a second.
See if I can maintain this goodwill.
How does a candidate, what should they be doing with their resume to make sure that it gets through the ATS and to you? That's number one. The second part is, how much do you rely as a recruiter on the ATS?
Okay, so let me start with how much I rely on the ATS. I am in it every day. It is constantly open on my screen. I sometimes have 2, 3, 5, 10 windows open on my screen. I am fortunate I can have multiple sessions, which is nice. I'm in it every day. And the number one thing I do, the first box I check off of my list every morning is I go through and I look at my new applicants. And I'm looking at them through the lens of basic qualifications. So now, how do candidates optimized for that, and how do I know, how do I make my resume so Amy sees it? Look at the job you're applying to. All the way down at the bottom, there's probably something that says basic qualifications, minimum requirements, something like that. If your resume can tell me without any doubt or very little doubt that you indeed meet those basic qualifications, you're going to move to the hiring manager. Now, the hiring manager may review your background and not see a fit, or may have a large short list and say, okay, I like these, 5 of these 10 or whatever. That can happen. But you are being looked at by a human. And I am looking strictly for those basic qualifications. There are compliance rules. This has been a rule at every large tech company I've worked at. There is a live human being, whether it's myself, a sourcer. Sometimes there is an entire team of screeners that are dedicated to those incoming applications, but a live human looks at that and we're looking at it that you fit the basic qualifications. That's it. Okay. All this optimizing that's as meaningless if you don't show me that you meet the basic qualifications.
Wow. So that just shattered everything that I've been hearing. So when we say an optimized resume, what should that really means that we need to make sure that we've included and clearly shown that we've met the basic requirements of the job,
period. And there's a lot of discussion about parsing. I believe me, I get my teeth kicked in on the internet every day for this stuff. I mean, people really hate when I come on here or shows like this or my own show and I blow this myth. Here's the thing, parsing is basically the tool thinking that it's smart enough to know which words go into which field in your application. So your name gets pulled to the name field, your current company gets pulled to the right place. Most ATSs, at least from where I've seen on the candidate side, you can actually go and make sure before you hit submit, okay, hey, use my LinkedIn profile to apply. Okay, great. And it's going to populate those fields. You can go and make sure those fields populated right. There's not some mythical ATS monster that's scrambling it. It's just putting the right things in the right places, which you can make sure is correct before you hit submit. But again, it goes back to when I look at a resume, I hit a button, the resume pops out. It's either a Word document or a PDF. And I look at it and I look for those indicators of basic qualifications. That's it.
Okay, so you also mentioned something, by the way, we're getting lots of hellos. Hello, Ira. Thank you so much. And yes, I will see you shortly. We need to talk about that DI thing, Ira, because you got 2 DIs right here.
We have questions, Ira.
Yes. And Matthew wants to not leave. And then I am not even going to try to pronounce this person's name, but hello. And he always loves talking to you, listening to you. So, and Jeremy asks a question for the ATS. What if you, I'm going to give this in 2 parts. What if you are a mid-careerist and your qualifications go beyond the basics? That's a really good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the next question that I'd like you to follow up on is, when you're recruiting for Amazon, does the candidate come to you first and then you automatically forward them to the hiring manager, or do you aggregate candidates, then sit down and talk to the hiring manager why you are forwarding those candidates? Like, what's the relationship between an Amazon recruiter and the hiring manager? So
I think it is a 2-part question, and honestly, the answer is it depends. And I will say this, I don't recruit any differently for Amazon than I did for Microsoft or Google. I mean, I can tell you the Amy Miller style, and we'll see what people think of that. But what I do, and I want to also make sure people understand, there's a difference between an applicant and a prospect. An applicant is someone who has actually applied to the role. They have expressed interest in a specific position. They've hopefully optimized their resume in the way that says, oh yeah, they fit the qualifications. So I want to talk about the first one. What if my qualifications exceed that? Well, a lot of companies also include something called preferred qualifications. So if you're meeting those preferred qualifications as well, that's kind of the extra little icing on the cake. We will still submit candidates that lack the preferred because they're just that preferred. But the reality is, if we're getting to a situation where we've got, oh crap, there's 30 people here that could potentially be a fit, we have to make some tough choices, or we have to decide who to call first. It's possible, depending on the needs of the role, depending on the pipeline, depending on a lot of factors, we might start with those more qualified people, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So that's one. And then so like the relationship, right? So one of the things that we'll do prior to posting a role, so prior to even getting those incoming applicants in the first place, is we will do a calibration exercise where, okay, we've got this open position. We're understanding what we're trying to solve for here. We're digging into the specific business problems. I don't do lists of keywords. That is not how I roll. I want 30 minutes with the manager and tell me what we're solving. Tell me how this person is impacting the larger team. What are they going to be accomplishing? How does this fit into the larger business strategy? All of that kind of stuff. We use that later. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah, so once we have that, sometimes, depending if it's a brand new role I've never touched, I will do some sourcing. I'll pull some profiles that I think maybe fit, and I'll take those to the manager and say, hey, these people have not heard from me yet. They've not expressed interest. They're cold leads. I want to know, am I kind of thinking of this the right way? Am I looking at the right kind of profiles? And so we do some early vetting. Sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, that person looks great. I then have to go and convince that person that they want to talk to us. So that's the sourcing part. But having that intake and those strategy meetings up front and really getting in sync with your leader on what we're looking for and what we're solving makes it easier to write the right job description, put the right basic qualifications in there, and then hopefully attract the right people applying to the role. So that's how I do the partnership.
Music to my ears. But are all hiring, well, I'm not even going to go down that path. Let's just let that go. We're just going to let that go, and we'll do that for another day. So I want to talk to you about job descriptions, and then I'll go back to the queue questions and what people are asking. I want to talk to you about job descriptions. So especially in the technology domain. And let's just go ahead and step on that mine, user experience. When I see user experience descriptions that have everything from research and architecture to can you code, right? That you have to have coding. What are we doing here, people?
That's a great question. And I think it's a fine line for a recruiter to walk, because let's face it, most job descriptions are created by a combination of legal and HR, of which I am neither. Right. Technically, I roll into HR, I guess, but my work is very different. Mm-hmm. The best thing, and again, your mileage may vary depending on the company you work for and how much freedom they give you to impact these things. But the best thing that you can do is run that job description through your own filter. Would I apply to this? I've done that with managers in the past. I have gone in, slapped a piece of paper on their desk and said, would you apply to that? Are you even qualified for that, by the way? while we're talking about it, so it's really diving into, we may have a wish list, and that's okay. Your dream purple unicorn with rainbow hair candidate might exist, but let's get realistic.
Yeah.
What are the minimums that have to be there in order for this person to be able to do the job? And so I think more recruiters need to, frankly,
push back.
Up. Yeah, push back. I mean, for lack of a better term, right? Like push back, like ask hard questions, test people on this stuff, because a hiring manager with the best of intentions may be saying, well, geez, this is what I'd really like to have. And so they kind of just data dump all this great wish list. It's like my kids and their Christmas list, when they were babies. They were asking for ponies and stuff. We're not going to put a pony in here.
No, we're not.
So it was up to me to kind of come back and say, let's talk about what's realistic.
Yeah.
Here's what the labor market says.
Yeah. I remember telling a client once that I wouldn't take the job description as is. It needed to be pared down. It needed to be focused. And we did.
Absolutely.
We worked on what's called a performance profile. And I'm sure you've heard of that. They're very, they're becoming more used frequently as time comes. But I told him, I said, I would love a Rolls Royce too.
Exactly. And how much do they cost, Lee?
and so can we pare this down to something that you could get in and drive? Right? And
exactly. Are you even qualified to drive this car?
Exactly. Let's go take a look and see what some of the questions are. Oh, here's a good one. This is from Andy. How much does sending a cover letter as well as a resume assist a candidate to get through the ATS?
So, hi, Andy.
Where do cover letters sit with you?
So first of all, I want to push on that verbiage a little bit. Are we trying to get through the ATS, or are we trying to get through the human that's looking at the resume and cover letter? I mean, there's a difference, and I hate to be that girl, but I'm gonna push on that every time.
So
yeah, I mean, the ATS doesn't care. The ATS is completely agnostic with this. The ATS is going to give me the returns that I'm asking for. Now, I can search my ATS and I could plug in, I could look at all, 10 million people that are in my ATS or whatever the number is by searching to a Boolean or something like that. But to your point about cover letters, if a company is asking for a cover letter, by all means, it's important. They've made that for whatever reason, they want to see one. That's fine. I don't necessarily look at them because I'm focused on the resume. I'm focused on, do I see that fit for basic qualifications? That is what I care about, full stop, at first. Now, if I see the basic qualifications and maybe I'm just like, okay, I see it, but maybe there's more I'm missing. That's where a cover letter could be helpful if someone is, maybe like in my case, maybe they're coming from automotive and they want to move into this more of an aerospace type of world that I'm recruiting for. That might be helpful, but I wouldn't spin up a ton of effort on that unless the company's asking for it, honestly. I don't see it being a deal breaker most of the time.
Okay. So if requested, hand it over.
If it's not requested, they want it.
Yeah. So if not, assume that a resume, your portfolio is what we're looking at.
Right.
So let's take a look at that. And I'm assuming that you also screen for UX people. Is that right?
I don't do any UX people. Okay. Yeah, I'm all hardware right now.
You're all hardware. Okay.
Yeah.
So then that question will not apply to you.
I'm sorry.
Let me just see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Let me check around here. What are the, let's see, Hailey, what about the preferred qualifications? How important are those? I think we already answered that. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next, let's see how much time we have left. We've got 9 minutes left, Amy, and we're not done yet. So the next question is, I don't like to work. I don't trust recruiters. I don't think that they have candidates in the best interest. Now, this is something that was posed to me 4 times in preparation for this. I don't think that recruiters provide good customer service. I don't think that recruiters understand the positions that they're recruiting for. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that recruiters, whether they're especially with outsourced recruiting, right? Third-party recruitings. I kept hearing I would feel better working with in-house recruiters than contract recruiters. And here's another one. If I did what recruiters have done to me in my job, I would have been fired, meaning that there is poor communication, poor follow-up, all this other stuff. They're getting some horror stories. And so how do we address that? How do we take these perceptions? And you know what they are. You hear them every day.
Every day.
So what do you say to that?
I mean, look, there's like every industry, there are bad eggs. And I have a kid in law school, and so I always kind of tease her, like, get ready for it, because just like my industry, you suck and you're evil and everyone hates you until they need a good one. And like, everyone's going to hate you because you're a lawyer, but guess what? When you need a good one and you're good and you provide the right service, you're worth every penny of that ridiculous hourly rate. And it's the same with recruiters. And you know what? Frankly, every individual experience is different. As good as I might think I am, and I certainly have a few people who think I've done a good job for them, I guarantee you I have provided bad service to someone in the past. I guarantee it, probably even as recent as last week, because I'm human. So I think, first of all, one of the big things is just understand what is the recruiter's job. And I'm not suggesting that any of the questioners are coming from this place, but one of the big misconceptions is a lot of job seekers think that it's my job to find them a job, and it's not. My job is to find the right people and help move them through the process to get to an offer, to fill a gap on the team. Whether I'm internal or a third party, that's my job. A nice side effect is that I can sometimes help people get where they want to go, or I can provide coaching, or I can help with your resume or whatever. But understand that I'm not only paid, but I'm also like measured on getting hires or on influencing the business or doing certain things that may not feel good to you. So I think, first of all, look through the lens of what my job really is. If I still suck, you have every right to be mad. But I also would, look, it's not a recruiter thing. It's a human thing. Every job you have, every person, every interaction you have, somebody's going to suck at it. Somebody's going to make you feel bad. Don't blame all of us for one bad, same thing like, oh, I can't recruit software engineers because that software engineer was such a jerk to me and hung up on me and cussed me out. I'm never going to talk to a software engineer again. I'd never make another placement.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for answering that. We've got Jason Lung, who is asking, it looks like a couple of questions. In the changing remote reality, does Amy think Amazon will be more open to roles like UX and dev remaining virtual distant after the COVID wave?
I don't know. I mean, this has really been a surprise for all of us, I think. And I can speak for Google as well. I mean, very much kind of in office cultures. They really want you there. They want you physical and present. This has changed a lot of people's opinions, maybe. So those are decisions made way above my pay grade, but I would be supportive. I mean, I'm a fan of a nice work from home setup.
Yeah, and Jason, we're actually going to be on a call at 1:30 with Ira, and this is a conversation that we are going to have, and it's really a psychological effect, right? This COVID
for sure
situation is really a psychological effect, and things are going to be shifting. Let's see, we've got another one from the Gonzalez family. I guess the entire family is
all right.
I'm not sure. I could be a rock star procurement analyst for Amazon based on my skill set. I've applied and connected with related recruiters in LinkedIn. Any one of them. What more can I do to get noticed?
Have you talked to procurement analysts at Amazon? Have you talked to procurement managers at Amazon? So this kind of goes back to, where we started with, think about who's feeling the pain. I love that you're connecting with recruiters, and I hope you've had a good experience, because believe me, customer obsession is no joke. We talk about it every day with our leadership principles. But that peer and leadership networking is critical. Now, I understand I have the immense privilege of being in an industry known for networking. I have not applied for a job since I worked for the state government. I've networked into every role. Now, I've had to apply at some point to be considered. But it's been, talking to people I know who work there. Don't minimize the importance of making those industry connections. Recruiters are one piece of the puzzle, and an important piece, but there's a whole lot more you might be missing.
So they need to understand the business and where they fit within
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is what you had said early on. Yeah. All right. It looks like we're at 12:27, just to let everybody know. The next question is from oh my God, I should know this. I've known her for over a decade. Janine Laurie or Janine, I cannot remember. Laurie, hello. How do recruiters work with managers to write the job descriptions, or do they? So we're back to the job description.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it depends on the company, to be honest. I was not allowed to do anything related to job descriptions at Google, for example. I mean, they are posted as like a bulk, if you apply to this, you're being considered for a number of roles in a number of locations. So we had no say at all. Before and after that, though, I do try to weigh in, especially on the basic qualifications part, and it depends. And part of it too, if I'm being honestly, and to our friend Janine, how brave is the recruiter? Sometimes we're afraid to push back. Sometimes we're afraid to, especially if it's a new relationship. Oh my gosh, I'm working with a director of hardware development. I'm just a little peon recruiter. Is he going to listen to me? Yeah, because I'm the recruiting expert. Of course he's going to listen to me, but I have to prove that I'm worth listening to. So we could go a lot deeper on that, but yeah, recruiters should be, as much as the company will allow you to.
Yeah, so that's another call, Amy, that we're going to have is how to elevate the perception and the capabilities of the recruiter to earn that right to become a business partner. And I think that's a critical piece right there. Rhymes with wine. Thank you. It's Janine. I knew it was.
Janine. Hi, Janine.
So we are at 12:29, and I do want to make sure that we've got a bunch of other questions. It looks like some of them are the same, and I don't know how to pronounce this name, another name. They're asking about how resumes, let's see, I can't read this one. Hold on. What roles do referrals play in Amazon? Do we skip? So if you get referred to Amazon, do you skip the ATS part? So apparently this ATS part is a real sticking point, right? People are very passionate about this ATS. And so if somebody gets referred, do they get past this ATS?
They go into the ATS where they are looked at by a human. And I'm looking Guess what? For basic qualifications.
Okay. Got it.
Now, we love referrals, and most companies will have guidelines like you need to look at it within 7 days, or you need to respond when sort of, there are definitely guidelines, and we do want to be very thoughtful and mindful of referrals. But we can sniff out bad referrals. I will ask, oh, so your friend so-and-so, oh, I don't know so-and-so. I mean,
Okay. Right.
so
there's
yeah.
really no preferential treatment. It just means that you've been looked at possibly a little sooner, a little bit.
Yeah, and again, because we do want to encourage good behavior, and we want to encourage people, sending in referrals. Most companies pay referral bonuses, which is great, but you still have to meet the qualifications for the role. You still have to get through the interview. There's a preference, so to speak, because we have some mechanisms in place to make sure they get looked at in a certain time frame. But you still got to be a fit for the job. We can't get out of that. It's not going to happen.
So we are now at the stopping point. I told you this was going to go by fast. We can do this again, and I reserve the right to bring you on again.
I love that.
It'll be okay with you. If you want to get a hold of Amy, how can these people get a hold of you? LinkedIn is one way.
LinkedIn's definitely one way. You can email me at amy@recruitinginyogapants.com. Recruiting in Yoga Pants is my blog. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I do an AMA Friday. I basically ask me anyway. And I just talk about anything recruiting related that people want to know. So any of those methods.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Amy, thank you so much for all of your efforts in supporting your organization and supporting the people who do apply. I think that we've got a number of takeaways here, and we will be doing a follow-up session.
Love it.
All of you on YouTube and LinkedIn, if I didn't get to your question, I'll be sure to send them through to Amy. She can respond in the way that she prefers to respond. Okay. And thank you for joining Live with LinkedIn, Live with Lee, not Live with LinkedIn, Live with me, Lee. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
For just a second.